everybody. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending where you're at. This is the Bearded Realtor, and I want to welcome you back to our second podcast, the Bearded Realtor Podcast. Today we have a great guest who's full of life that I got to meet. He's a new friend of mine. I've met him about a year ago, and I'm going to let him tell his story a little bit, but I want to introduce you to Jacob Todd. Jacob, hey.
Nice to see you, Greg, and good morning.
Good morning. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing great. Tuesdays are amazing.
Good. And I did tell him what you do for a living, but why don't you tell our guest, what do you do?
So I like to call myself a finance mortgage problem solver.
Okay.
But technically, I am a mortgage banker.
Okay.
So I help people who want to access, real estate finance, right? I help them access, their first home or creative solutions. I'm kind of at the end of the day a problem solver for most people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And before we get into why you got into business, what keeps you going, tell us a little personally about you. Hey, how young are you?
Okay, so I am 27 years old, but just a caveat, Napoleon at 26 years old conquered all of Italy by 26 years old, right?
Wow.
Sir Isaac Newton, he invented calculus by 24, and Einstein by 27 was already like the brightest mind in the entire world. So I think I'm actually in my prime, even though technically by our current standard, pretty young.
Pretty young in the in the business of lending, financing.
Sure.
So tell us a little personal about you. Are you married? Do you have children?
Yeah.
Where do you live?
I am married. I have one beautiful wife, just one right now. I've been married for over 5 years. I have a little girl who's 8 months old, which is so beautiful and so fun.
And what is her name?
Her name is Marigold Ray. Little Marigold Ray. And we live in Kingsburg, California right now, right off on the Kings River. So
Tell our guest how we met.
So I am, how do I put this? I'm a hungry business professional. I want to find really good people in my industry that I can grow to know, like, and trust, right? And so every single week I'm on mission to find people like you to do business with, to help people, to serve people, right? And I do my homework. I go on Google. I go on Realtor. I just find who's doing good business, typically 12 transactions or more a year. And look on their reviews, kind of to see, Instagram, Facebook, are they a normal, good human? And if so, they go on my ranking. Who am I going to call this week? And Greg, you showed up on my list almost 10 months ago.
Yeah.
And so every Monday morning from 9 to 11, I do my prospecting for partners, right? And so I call those people every Monday morning. Yeah. And you've gotten a call from me for the past 10 months.
I think you've actually called and texted me every single week. Yeah, that's interesting. And I remember you reaching out, and I could be wrong, but what it seemed like, and what I have heard from a lot of people who go into the business, they want to help build your business. That's how they get their foot in the door. They say, hey, I want to help you build your business.
Right.
And I think I asked you, well, how do you want to help me build my business?
Right.
So what did you do? What did you encourage me to do?
To
build my business?
So my background is I've got a lot of stuff we can talk about maybe a little bit later. My background coming into this space, but I'm a marketing professional. That's what that's really who I am even prior to this.
And I didn't know that.
Yeah. So my most recent job, I was a VP of strategic marketing for a new startup, a clean energy company. And so my background's all in marketing, all in just getting whatever you're doing, your service in front of more and more people. Right. And so, I looked at your profile. And I just noticed that you're an amazing guy, but you don't have the reach I know you could have, right? And so there's a lot of little things you can tweak, a lot of things you can do. And one of those was just Google, literally Google reviews. When you type in best real estate agent near me and you're in the Fresno Valley area, the person, not the closest person, mind you, it's going to be the person that has the best experience for their consumer. That's going to show up first, right? So if I go on ChatGPT or even Gemini on Google, right, and I type in best realtor near me, it's going to scrub all of your comments on Google. It's going to scrub all your comments on any other review platform that you've got, right? And it's going to give you not the closest, but it's going to give you the best experience because Google wants to direct you in the right direction. And so for you, you had no Google page, nothing, no one could find you, right? And if I was to type in even in this office, best realtor near me, you wouldn't have come up.
Wow.
Because there were other people in the area that had, 20, 30, 50, 100 Google reviews.
Yeah.
But when we start amplifying that message on those platforms, and you did.
Yeah, we started building.
Yeah.
We started asking our past clients
Right.
to please rate us on Google Review. And I believe we're between 30 and 35 reviews now. We've got all 5-star reviews.
Come on.
And so I want to thank you for that. I don't know, so I do listen. I love listening to people who are young in the business because they've taken the time to really research. They know what technology looks like and what's going on. So we did. That's how we met, and we have already built it up 35. But man, we would like to get 50 to 100 or more, of course. So for those who are listening and have known me, have done business, I would love if you guys would go onto my Google business and review me. So
a 5-star review only, please.
And you did say that. Ask for a 5-star review, and that's what we did. We just didn't say review. We asked for a 5-star review, and that's all we have, our 5-star. So ask, and it shall be given, right? You're a man of faith too, also, right?
Absolutely.
And how does that incorporate with your everyday life, with your family, your business, your work, your faith? How does that help sustain you in the market?
Yeah. So I even just more recently, I'm learning this concept, and for people who don't have a faith background, it might not resonate as deeply. But I operate everything I do, like as a husband, as a father, as a business professional. I operate from what I like to call, I use this language of a bedrock of abundance. I know the God that I serve. There is no lack in him. Like none, right? And so if my family needs something, whether it's spiritually, emotionally, physically, my God provides it, right? If it's just contentment in the little that we've got today, that's enough for today. That's the abundance that he gives, right? And in a world right now where I think we all operate, or at least we're forced to operate in this scarcity mindset, right? Where there's just not enough to go around. People are just in their little silos going from A to B. This is me. No one interrupt me, that kind of stuff, right? We're just so consumeristic in everything. And there's just this mindset that there's not enough to go around. The way that my faith is bedrock of abundance, like everything I do is like, no, there's enough to go around. Like today, there's enough time because God knows my schedule and he brought this person into my life. I'm going to stop. Literally yesterday, this gal called me and she was just going through some stuff, like real life stuff. And as a mortgage professional, as a mortgage banker, like I find people in some of the hardest situations often, typically on a refinance. Like the one gal yesterday, she's like, am I going to have to sell my home? I don't know what to do. I'm like swallowed in debt. And so I just take this moment, I stop and I say, you sound like a person of faith. Can I pray for you? And she started crying. Yes, please. And so I took 5-10 minutes to just bless her and pray over her because I know that I could make 5-10 more calls in that time I prayed for this gal. But in that moment, the stewardship that I was given over that moment was to stop and pray.
Yeah.
Because the God I serve is abundant, right?
Yeah.
And there's no lack. I didn't miss out doing that, right?
Yeah. And I think as human beings or creatures of this planet, we limit God. And I don't think there's any limitations to his grace, his abundance for us. And I like to tell a lot of our agents, go out and get your unfair share of business. There is business in every type of market, whether it's a buyer's, seller's market. And I love to tell people, go get your unfair share. So what does that mean? That doesn't mean we sit back and just wait for it to come. We have to be good servants, right? We have to go out and look for the business. Just like you did when you called me. You're looking for business. I'm going to put it out there. You're starving. You're new. You need the business. You're looking to build the business. So what did you do? You didn't even know.
I do the hard work,
Yes.
Those cold calls, come on.
And blessings come from that. And so thank you for sharing a little bit about your faith.
Yeah.
With that, share us about also, before we get into some of the other stuff, about you seem to be healthy. I know you talked about jogging. I think you talked about when you were living in the Southern California, you were surfing maybe? Did you?
Yeah, I'm a surf instructor.
You're a surf instructor. Wow. Man of many talents, right? So tell me a little bit about your health. Why is being healthy, active, so important to you in the culture that we're living today and where the market is? There's so much things. work for you?
Yeah, I think it comes down to just this simple, and maybe we overuse this, but like stewardship, right? It just comes down to how you steward all the things. Like how good are you a steward at what you're given? And for me, like when I'm a good steward of my body, right? Like my mind is clear, my spirit is full, and I can give my clients like the absolute best service. But when I stay up too late, when I don't eat right, when I don't work out, when I'm not, physically fit, I cannot be a good steward of the clients I'm given, right?
Yeah.
And so as an act of discipline, I make sure my body is always being well taken care of, so that when I show up at 6 a.m. to start my work day, right? Like my mind's acute. It's clear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
More recently, like I've even gotten off of coffee because I just felt like I have too many highs and lows, right? And I'm like, I'm not giving my clients the best experience because I'm a little drained in the middle of the afternoon, right? So I make sure that my food intake, all that kind of stuff, it's all like points in line with the goal of best service and stewardship.
Yeah.
So I'm super active. I'm a surfer. I even we went down south just this past week, surfed every single day that we were down there.
Real quick, what's the biggest wave you think you rode?
I think I'm not a big wave surfer, but like Huntington Beach, it goes off pretty hard. Where it's breaking way outside the pier. I was in high school. I paddled out on one of those really big days, and it was probably like a 15 to 20 foot, which means it's like a 20, 25 foot face.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so just like a couple buildings coming at you. Yeah. When you fall, it really hurts.
Okay.
Snaps boards.
So you've ate it before surfing?
Oh, all the time.
Oh, wow.
Last week I did.
Does it scare you? Like, does the water scare you when you come crashing down and your face is eating the
full
sand?
Full of sand, yeah. Not at all. I mean, it's just like, it's one of the only places where I feel so small, but like so at peace. Like there's nothing in the world that can, like my phone's not on me. So none of my clients can get me for that 1 hour I'm surfing, right? There's no distractions. Typically everybody else in the lineup. It's a rare place. When you're right now, like let's say you do a run club or something, you're active with other people, they'll have a smartwatch on, they're getting dinged, they're getting, they have their phone on them. But in the water, nobody's distracted. So when you're just floating and you're waiting for the next set to come in, guess what you do? You talk. And there's no distraction, right? Or there's nobody out there. Like there's so many times where I'll do a sunset surf sesh and like it's just me out there. It's super glassy because of the little fog and the sun setting, it's glowing. You feel like you're in a sunset, and then you'll just see some porpoise or something, and you're just like, this is heaven. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you're just it's something unique. Yeah.
Okay. So what I've learned about you is how would I say it? Okay. So having a faith, being spiritual, is one leg of your life. Being healthy, is one. Your family is probably one of your biggest treasures.
Is my biggest treasure. Yeah, for sure.
Very good. So that helps you keep yourself, I would say, level.
Yeah, sure.
So that you can, like you said, serve your clients. And back to health a little bit. It's not just the exercise we do.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot. You talked about sleep, getting enough sleep, eating right, some of the things that you put into your body, what you're eating, what you're drinking, and so you made those changes to your life. So how is that all impacting now your business? You've got your spiritual, your faith, your family, your health. How does that help you? A little bit more about how does that help you in your business? Because
that's great.
You've been in the mortgage lending for how long?
A little over a year and a half now.
Okay, and you've got it. It's hard getting in, starting a business, getting your name out there. It's very difficult. So there's a lot of highs and lows.
Right.
We're in a market right now where it's changing. It was a seller's market for at least 10 years now. Now we're seeing interest rates are a little bit higher than they have been. We're seeing that more listings are coming on. We're seeing they're sitting longer. Buyers are kind of on the fence because of the interest rates being close to 7%. So how do you handle the ups and the downs, the emotional part, when things aren't maybe coming together? And I'm sure there's the victories and the highs when it is. So how does Jacob handle that?
C'est la vie. Such is life, the highs and lows, right? And that's just kind of like, It's going to affect business. It's going to affect your personal. It's going to affect your marriage, the highs and lows, right?
Marriage, especially when it comes to finances. Wow.
If you want to
I'll write a book on that one.
If you want to learn about how to like be a more selfless human, get married and have a kid.
Yeah.
You know,
how old were you when you got married?
So it was 5 years ago, so I was 21.
Wow.
Yeah, Well, no, 2022. Sorry, 22.
That was young.
22. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
For today's standard, that was young. But okay, going back.
So, no, that's actually a really amazing question. So I come from like really dynamic and interesting work backgrounds. Last year, well, it's almost 2 years ago now that I was in Buckingham Palace working for the king.
No.
And I was launching his space sustainability program in Buckingham Palace, where I was like with all heads of state. I mean, Brian Moynihan, the CEO of Bank of America, like a friend of mine. And yeah, I met like Chris Hadfield, the astronaut that you probably know, astrophysicist.
I had lunch with him last week, but go ahead.
You're so funny. But like that was me 2 years ago, right? And so when it comes to just the highs and lows coming back to the States and then just feeling like I need a new challenge, right? It's just part of the adventure I think that I've chosen is that I got into something that's unique. I know where it's going to take me, but I'm willing to like do the hard work because I know the rewards long term. And even like my fitness, right? Like I know that if I go and lift, you know, like 20-pound dumbbells, you know, 100 times over today, my biceps aren't going to grow, right? I do it tomorrow, they're not going to grow, right? They're actually going to be probably destroyed if I do it 2 days in a row, right? But if I train for over 6 months, that same kind of, you know, routine, I'm going to be pretty pumped, right?
Right.
It's a building, it's a scaling, right? And so for me in my business, I know that if I do the stuff that moves the needle consistently.
That's the word I was hearing,
right?
consistent.
Like it's got to be consistent. Monday through Friday, 9 to 11, 11 to 5, I do the exact same thing.
Okay, but
like
there's got to be
day.
I know, but there's got to be times where you wake up and you don't want to do it. You feel like you've done it. It's not. You don't see the things producing. So what keeps you moving? What keeps you going?
I know that it will move the needle. If it's the market, right? Then when the market hits, I've got a system where I'm going to pass up everybody alongside me because I've built a business that works. I'm going to build relationships that are going to continue to grow. And then honestly, let's say I'm making 100 phone calls. Like yesterday, I made about 97 outbound phone calls on prospecting day on 9 to 11. I know if I'm slow and I need more business to support my family, what am I going to do? I'm going to make another 100 calls Tuesday morning. Market slow, my business will not slow down. And then also I know my data so well that I know if I make so many phone calls, right? I'm going to get so many answered phone calls. Okay. So many answered phone calls using the scripts and things that I've built are going to translate to so many meetings.
Yeah.
So many meetings translate to actual referral partners.
Right.
For every 4 meetings I meet with like a referral partner like this, I'm only going to have one actual partner that like likes me, that I like, that I trust, and that I, want to build a relationship with. So I know that if I call, let's say this next week, I have, 8 meetings set up, right? Only 2 of them are going to be people that I'm going to work with long term, right? The remaining 6, right? Literally just going to drop off the face of the earth. I'm going to still follow up with them. I'm going to give them my Monday email update. But like, I just know that if I need to scale, it just means more input.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's a numbers game a little bit.
That's what all business is. If you know your data, right? If you know your data, well, what's really neat too is, and it makes people kind of on the onset kind of feel like, oh, but I'm not a number, right? What's really neat is when you know your data and you know what works, you can focus on the stuff that really does help people. Like I can sort through really, really quickly. Is this someone that really needs my help? Or is it someone just shopping or whatever, right? And I always tell people, if you're serious, you will have all of my time and my entire team and their full weight behind me, right? There's no doubt about that, right?
Yeah.
But knowing my data, knowing what works, there's no highs and lows. It's just like I'm scaling right now, right?
Okay, so you hear, what's your why? But you know what I like to ask a lot of people is, what is right now, what is the passion in your life? What is your number one passion in life? And it could be anything. What is your passion?
I think seeing people like fully alive. Like I'm a baseball coach. I'm a surf instructor. I just love seeing people at point A, pointing them to what they could be, point B, right? Or Z, maybe it's a longer journey. And then saying, I'll help you get there. So I'm kind of like a realist. That's why even my tag is a family mortgage coach because I see people's potential and I coach them through the process, make them feel supported, but also encourage them to say, like, this is what I know you can get to. If it's financial freedom and using a house as an asset, let's get you there, right? Yeah. But that coaching mentality, for me, it's seeing people like fully alive. And if I can help them do that using the asset of a real estate investment, by all means, like, I'm all in.
Yeah. So what is in your business, in today in your business, again, year and a half about in the business, what does success look like to you in your business?
In my business, in my home, I first start with this. It's peace and joy in my own spirit, right? And so if I'm up super late, not present with my family, I'm not being successful, right? Real success in my business, right, is like helping the right kind of people find home. I'm a family mortgage coach. So if I'm not helping families get into their first home or buy their second investment property, or a young guy building his portfolio, I'm not being successful. I might be on calls too long with people that just are wasting my time. And I could be a better steward of my time and help more people that are really needing my support. So success is stewardship and actually helping people find home.
Yeah. So what influenced you to get into lending? Why lending? Seems like you have a lot of different talents. So why lending? Because that is your primary job. So
full-time.
What influenced you?
I'm full-time dad and husband, but then I'm a mortgage lender. So honestly, when I came back to the States we were living in Vienna, Austria, working for the flyover.
How long were you there?
A little over a year, about a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah. But when I came back to the States, they was just like, and I jumped into that VP role. I just looked up the corporate ladder and was like, all these VPs, like, their families are falling apart, especially the C-suite level. Kind of the next step for me was like, I just don't see myself there, right? And so when I came back, I was there for a little while and just was like, I need to make a big jump, right? And so I talked to some of my good mentors. I'm really surrounded by a lot of really good people. And I encourage anybody who's either a younger professional or just a professional in general to always have good mentors around you, people that are one step ahead of you at least, right? And they were just saying, Jacob, like, why don't you just try something where your personality can really come to play? Where in marketing and stuff, as it's moving to much more digital, you're behind a desk, behind a computer, kind of just running systems rather than helping people. And so, so I said, well, what do you think I should do? Took a couple personality tests, right? And I'm like, okay, this is kind of sales, whatever. And then a couple of my mentors were like, Jacob, what about real estate? So go meet with some real estate agents. So I did. I met with a couple of my good friends, real estate agents, and they're like, Jacob, you have a young family, you've got a kiddo on the way. It's going to take you about a year to get your first transaction. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't wait to get paid for a full year. But they're like, but you'd be so good in real estate. Why don't you jump into mortgage lending? I'm like, what's that? So then in my church community, I met with a couple of my mortgage lenders in my church community, and they said, you'd be amazing. So literally, I told a couple of my family members, any other mortgage banks or whatever. And one of my good friends said, yeah, my dad actually owns a mortgage bank. Like, talk to him. Met for coffee with him. He said, if you go get licensed, I'll hire you, right? So I Googled as soon as I got home, was as soon as I could take a test. It was 7 days from that moment, right? Scheduled my test. And on that 7th day, I just took the test, passed it, gave the guy a ring until I passed my exam. He said, show up to the office next week. I was working that following week, right? I literally remember sitting at my desk thinking, well, what am I doing? How do I build a mortgage business? I have no idea. And there's not really that support like other entities that I've worked for. And so I just thought there's untapped like scalability in this business, right? Yeah. Looking around, it's like there's so much average in this business. What if I'm just like the best? What if I show up and I really care? Like, what if I actually follow up on what I say I'm going to do? What if I'm actually consistent? I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then the freedom it gives me for my family. As a real estate agent, too, you can do stuff, shave your leg. We can do this stuff because we have a business that works. And we built it in a way that really matches our personality and our fit. So for me, it was like, this is prime, right? My wife was in on the risk of it, the slowness of the start, and we're all in. Yeah. Like, I have no plan B. There's nothing on the horizon. It's like full steam ahead.
Well, we know there's a lot of lenders out there. There's a lot of great lenders out there. So what are you doing to stand? And I think you've kind of touched it, totally. And I know. But I want you to tell our viewers, what do you do to stand out from other lenders?
I hope you can trust me by now, but it's like there's a level of trust I gain with everybody I work with, right? If you're a person of faith, we're going to pray for wisdom. You know what I mean? We're going to get in there and we're going to make sure that we're on the same page and we're hopefully friends by the end, right? But one of the biggest things that most lenders don't do, they can get you a loan product, right? They can get you your down payment assistance program or whatever, but the loan's got to close, right? And so for me, if we're in escrow, my Tuesday morning habit or ritual, right, is I call everybody in escrow, meaning literally. So as the buyer, you're going to get a phone call from me Tuesday morning. Your buyer's agent is going to get a call from me every Tuesday morning. The listing agent is going to get a call from me with an update. The title company gets a call from me. If you have working with an insurance agent, they're going to get a call from me. If you're working with a lawyer or some kind of financial advisor, they're going to get literally everybody that's in your transaction. Every Tuesday morning gets a call. This is where we're at right now. We're on track for a smooth and flawless closing. If there's anything I need to address, it's going to get addressed on Tuesday morning. There's no guessing, right? And I'm going to tell you and everybody involved, we are on track for an early closing, right? And I've got a whole team of mine, underwriters, processors that are in-house with me. So if there's anything that comes up that needs to be addressed, it's addressed in minutes. I walk one door down and talk to my underwriters, right? There's no black hole. So for me, when we get into a transaction, yes, we're going to find you the best loan product, but we're going to close your loan. And the entire process, I hate surprises in finance. I don't think anybody should have surprises. And in the mortgage lending process, when this is literally one of the biggest financial decisions someone makes, there should be no surprises. Right?
And I want to add one of the most stressful things that somebody would do. Buying a home, they say, is one of the most stressful.
Right.
So, that's where, go ahead. Did you have a final thought on?
No, and I think it's just every week knowing that, hey, my lender's going to call me and I'm going to know exactly where we're at. Exactly where we're at.
So let's talk to our viewers a little bit about lending.
Sure.
So how do you take a buyer who's considering buying or selling? They're concerned maybe the interest rates are high right now.
Yeah.
What do you do to help educate them to get them off that fence if they're sitting on the fence? So what are something that you would be telling the buyers today about why they should buy and not wait?
Well, if you are ready to buy, there's a difference here. I'm never, as a mortgage lender, there's some people where I can speak to this, but if you're ready to buy, meaning you've got your reserves, you can comfortably make the mortgage payment. If your HVAC goes out, some big purchases, whatever, you have that liquidity and you're ready to buy, it's a different conversation. But if you're on the fence because you're I don't know if I can buy or not, right? It's so important to have a clear mortgage roadmap. If your desire someday is to buy a home, if you're 25, 35, 45, and you still want to buy a home, but have never had this conversation, it's so important to talk with someone who can create that mortgage roadmap for you. Okay, so in 5 years from now, you want to buy a home, right? Let's create that roadmap. Where are you at today? The coaching side, right? And how do we get there?
The preparation.
Your income. Can we increase that somehow? All your debts outstanding that are really working your DTI low. Can we work these things? And then let's create this plan. If maybe your FICO score is super low, whenever I run a credit report, we go through that whole credit report together. Is there any derogatory remarks that we can address? Let's create some kind of inquiry where we can get those derogatory marks removed. Get you shiny before we, in 5 years, get ready to apply, right? So that's one thing, is setting up a clear mortgage roadmap or a clear mortgage plan for someone who doesn't have one, right? Super, super key. You don't want to be surprised. I want to buy a house next month. It's whoa, you didn't get prepared, right? So make sure you prepare with someone who knows what they're doing and is good at what they're doing. And then secondly, to your question, if someone is totally ready to buy, and interest rates right now, we're at as of this morning, the MBS was showing a 6.89 for a 30-year fixed, okay? Powell is going to have a conversation at 10 p.m. Well, actually, right now it's going 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where most likely, based on some of the comments he's previously made, maybe by July or August, we're going to have our first rate cut, okay?
Finally, huh?
Hopefully. But mind you, this just simply a Fed rate cut doesn't mean mortgage rates drop significantly, right? Yeah. But what I'm saying is there's some movement downward.
Okay.
Even with the war over in Iran, or U.S.'s involvement right now with what's going on with Israel and Iran, there's a lot of instability. The bond market's completely frozen. Still, no movement. If anything, June of last year to June this year, no movement. We were in the high sixes then, we're in the high sixes now. There's no movement, right? So what I'm trying to say is if you're hoping to have a crystal ball to say when the rates drop at this percent, I'm going to be able to afford it, whatever, it could never happen, right? And then when you go and try to buy that $400,000 house, because of where the market's at, it could have gone up 2-3% by the time that you bought it. And now your home that you could afford, you're priced out because it's too expensive, right? And then the crazy thing is, let's say rates do drop in July and August, okay? Rates drop by 0.25%, 0.5% would be insane, right? Rates drop, guess what happens to this buyer and every other buyer?
They run out.
Flood the market.
Yeah,
right?
they're going to come. Yeah.
I just had my sister. She just put an offer on a house right in LA. It was worth like $850. Okay, average price for LA. The crazy thing is she put her offer down. $850 is what she could afford. Right. The home ended up going for 1.2.
Wow.
Was insane because there were so many people bidding on it. Right. So what I'm saying is your home that you can afford today, like you're most likely going to get priced out when you wait for rates to drop and the 100,000 buyers turn into 1 million buyers that are flooding the market, right?
Yeah.
And so today, if you can afford, have a conversation with a lender like myself to say, what is that trigger point? I call it like a strike zone, baseball player. What's that strike zone? I know what that is, right? And then I work with an agent like you who's saying, these houses are available. Let's find something that's perfect and get into this now. And then in 1 year, when that home, increases in value by 3 to 5%, you've made all that equity overnight, right? It's just crazy.
Yeah. And piggybacking off interest rates, we all know when the interest rates drop below 3%, everybody was renting below 3%.
Oh yeah, insane. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was nothing that was normal. No. If you look at the last 50 years, the average interest rate, as you know, is about 7%. That's where we're at. We're at an average interest rate that for 50 years now. So it's interesting that the public, they're waiting for the interest rates to get back down to 3%.
Oh, they will not.
Yeah, I may never see that in my
or a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Right, which we can't really guarantee anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so where we're at today is like a healthy US economy is about 5 3/4.
Yeah.
That is a strong economy.
Yeah.
Right? We're not going to be there anytime soon. So,
those that are afraid because the interest rate's stopping them and they continue to rent, hey, they're paying somebody else's
mortgage.
Mortgage. Why not pay their own? But anyway.
But that's the thing too, is if you can pay someone else's mortgage and still have a ton of money left over, because a home ownership is expensive sometimes.
Yeah.
There's so many surprises that come up.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that like Dave Ramsey kind of idea, right? Financial peace.
Yeah.
I want you in a home and peaceful in that home, not house poor. Right?
Okay.
So that's a huge goal too.
Good. Yeah. So, I'm thinking of a green, yellow, red stoplight right now. So green being good.
Yeah.
When you have buyers, what are some of the signs that you say, oh, this is a good possible client buyer? What does that look like versus a little warning with this buyer, yellow, and then red? Oh, no, this buyer's, it's not going to work out. So tell me a little bit about what is a green light buyer look like?
A green light buyer is someone that already, I would say there's this ratio in mortgage lending that's like it's like the bread and butter of what we do. It's called the debt to income ratio, right? If your overall monthly expenses, right, are around 30% or lower, right?
Okay.
That is like, by all means, if you're still renting right now, we can transition into a mortgage and you can more than afford your house, right? That's a green light buyer. You've got enough reserves, right, for maybe 6 months or so to be able to float you if something happens, lose a job or whatever, something drastic happens, and you're comfortable in your job, right? Maybe you've got this thing for a couple years now. Typically, from conventional lending, you do want to be in the same job for about 2 years. So if you've been in the same job for 2 years or the same industry, you want to make sure that it's the same job and the same kind of line of work. You make enough money, try ideally, like I said, 30% or below. And then your FICO score, ideally, you're going to have your first price bucket where it's going to make a difference is 680. If you're below 680, you're going to see some pretty negative pricing adjustments, right? 720 is the next one. And then the next big one where you're going to want to really try to get if you want to be a green light buyer is 780.
Okay.
Anything above 780, it's not going to get better than that. If you have 820, like kudos, you can brag about it to your friends, but it's not going to be there, right?
What's the highest FICO score you've seen a buyer or anybody
850.
have? 850. Is that where it stops?
I think it's 9.
9. Okay.
Yeah. Like absolute perfection, and every creditor is like ranked you the highest.
Okay.
So, and then too, like credit score too, you got to understand that the FICO score is very unique to mortgage lending. If you look at your, Citibank or Chase Bank or US Bank app, whatever that is, and it tells you your FICO score, it's basing it off one credit line. So when I pull your credit from all 3 credit bureaus, right, it could very well be very different than what you're seeing, because we're looking at all trade lines from all time.
Yeah.
Right. And even the crazy thing is, if you have a variation of your name, I have 3 first names, Jacob, Lewis, and Todd. Right. If I've on one credit report listed Jacob Todd and then Jacob Lewis Todd, Jacob L Todd, all those variations in my name, what do? They actually pose risk on my credit report. Mine is only like 5 or 10 points, but that's 5 or 10 points.
Yeah.
Right. Every single time I have a different address that I'm currently living at that's different, even a variation of the same address, risk, right? So what you want to do if you want to really get your credit score up is having that first conversation, know where you're at today, and then remove all those different things, right? You can easily dispute all those things and remove them, update your name. But like to have a squeaky clean, shiny credit report is where you want to be, and that's working with the mortgage lender. A yellow buyer would just be like, you're barely making it. Like your debt to income ratio is almost maxed out at like 50%, meaning half of your income is going right to debt. It could be car payments, it could be, credit cards, it could be your house payment, all of that. That's just like, I wouldn't encourage you to move forward. FICO score below 680, you're just going to pay a lot of money for it. Or if you're, that would be like a big time yellow flag, right? Or yellow light. And then red would just be like, you just can't afford it. Like your FICO score is below, the highest we can do is, the lowest we can do on a FICO is 580, right? Your income is over 50%, your debt to income ratio is over 50. And then you just can't like comfortably like make your mortgage payment with all your debts, right? And then still eat out or like buy a new shirt when you need it. Or you know what I mean? Like you're not comfortable. There's not that peace. And that would be a hard stop. But then also that though, if you are a red light buyer, right? Like meaning like you shouldn't do this, no lender should ever tell you, no, it's not yet, right? Greg and I are going to work together. We're going to get you ready so that in 2 years or 6 months, maybe,
6 months,
we're going to get you ready, right?
Yeah.
And this is what we're going to do. Here's your roadmap. I'm going to follow up next month with you, right? And I do. Yeah. As you know, my schedule. I'm going to follow up with you and say, how are we doing? Check in, accountability. Let's get you ready to buy.
Yeah. What are some, once you get a buyer prepared or pre-approved, they go out, they find a home, they write it up, they get their offer accepted.
Yeah, amazing.
They're in escrow. Now, what are some of the challenges that you have with buyers once they're in escrow?
I literally give out a 10 commandments of mortgage lending. People go out and they buy new furniture for their future home and they put it on credit. Like insane. Like, I mean, our debt to income ratios were already close, and we just added another $1,000 a month payment because you bought new furniture.
Yeah.
And they had to do a hard inquiry. Your credit score went down. We've got to update all of that. You honestly could disqualify yourself if you do something like that, right? Closing credit card accounts. Credit's a big one for people. I see that all the time. Oh, I went out and bought a new car to celebrate.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Yeah,
right?
I had a client who just recently did that because, but his car broke down. He couldn't even get to work, so he had to go out and buy a pickup. And I didn't know it.
No, and this is where the mortgage lender is like, I give the 10 commandments, right?
Yeah.
Don't do these things. So it's kind of tongue in cheek for people that aren't in the faith space. But it's like, don't do these things, and I'll have this conversation, right? And actually, an example would be, I was trying to refinance someone about 6 months ago, right? We were in the process, debt consolidation, so he could float better and live a more peaceful life. He went out and thought, like, he was sitting on his couch one day, he told me, and we were already like 10 days in escrow. He's like, this couch was uncomfortable. I just went and bought new furniture for my living room. He completely disqualified himself.
Yeah.
So we're on another 6-month roadmap to get him to a place where he can even refine. Insane, right? This is the kind of stuff that's hard stop. Let's see, another,
other challenges. Like, what about those who are limited down payment? They have enough for their down payment, and maybe they got to do their inspections, and whether they go out on credit or even pay cash, and they deplete the cash to come in. At closing, they're short $1,000, and now we have an issue.
That, like, to be honest, with a really good mortgage lender, like, these are conversations you have, but like while you're being pre-approved. So when I hand off a qualified buyer to you, Greg, like, I know their reserves are more than adequate. I've had all the conversations with them prior to saying, this is how much money we're expecting, and it's always inflated. Let's say it's 2% they need to, appraisal, inspection. We're going to reserve 4% just in case, right? And then also, if you're getting into a new home, you're probably going to want to paint. You're going to want to do little things, right? So you want to make sure also you've gotten a little bit extra cash to put into the home when you get in there, right? So just really being upfront with no surprises. Like, I am not going to sell you a mortgage if it's doesn't make complete sense for you, right? Yeah. And you're going to be totally prepared, totally upfront. You know all the details of what's going to happen. Even a roadmap for this is step 1, check. Step 2, check, right? And then the last thing would just be that's really, really like harmful or really like damages the loan process is when there's not a good communication between the lender and the buyer, right? Yeah. Meaning, hey, we want to close in 10 days, which is totally possible. When I say jump, I need you to jump. Underwriters need something, and you know, Suzanne down the street needs something. Like I need it tomorrow, or like by end of business today, right? And so if a mortgage lender is asking you for something, it's because they need it. It's not because there's a flag or like a warning sign. It's just, hey, to get this thing through and really support you, we need these documents, right? So that's another thing I really see that slows down the process or even extends escrow is because, guys, we're frozen. We don't have all the documents. We're not fully approved. Yeah. And that's kind of another one.
Yeah. I know I've received calls from buyers that say, hey, I went out this weekend. I went to an open house. Yeah. I fell in love with the home. I want to put an offer in, and they've not even talked to a lender yet. Sure. So if that happens and we refer him to Jacob, and Jacob says, okay, there's certain information I'm going to need. How long does that process take for you to get them pre-approved once they give you that call? Say that they've got that information ready. They could get it to you within a day. How long does it take to get a pre-approval?
That's great. So there's 2 different ways to get, there's 2 different things here. One is the pre-qualification, right?
Right.
So if a buyer gives me a call.
And we always like to see pre-approval. That's why I said that.
So there's a pre-qualification and then there's a pre-approval. Make sure when you're a buyer, you know the difference here. If a lender says you're pre-qualified, ask about it. Like, what does this actually mean? So pre-qualification, if you called me, let's say Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, right? You're going to go see a house with Greg. You saw it on Zillow. You love it. At 9 o'clock, you go and check it out. You love it. You give me a call and say, hey, I need to put an offer down by end of business. Close a business on Saturday. What I'm going to do in the next 30 minutes is get you a pre-qualification letter. I'm going to run what's called an automated underwriting service, and that's just a quick scrub of your income, assets, you know, just kind of where you're at today, your credit score, and it's going to tell me based on this automatic approval what you're qualified for, right? That typically takes 30 minutes. So I'll get you a letter. If you want to put an offer down with the pre-qualification letter, you can do it in 30 minutes, right?
Wow.
A pre-approval, so this is when an actual physical underwriter scrubs through all your documents. Mind you, if I have all the documents in hand, typically it's about 48 hours. Return time can be anywhere from 24 to 48 hours, and that's very, very average. Yeah. Where that can change, though, is when the market gets super hot, and a bank doesn't have the kind of leverage, and I've seen this with many other agents I've worked with, like, hey, all of a sudden my lender just disappeared. It's because maybe got a bunch of other people, didn't have a system in place to follow up, and the loan got lost or whatever, right? So you want to make sure you're with someone that knows the importance and the urgency of this. And if you really need to put an offer in 24 hours or 48 hours, the great thing about having a team that's all in-house is I just give my head of underwriting a call and say, hey, this thing needs to be moved to the top right now. The buyer and the agent want to put an offer down tomorrow morning. Can we get this thing through? Yeah. And I have never been denied that because also I've never been in a hot market, but it's typically, yes, we'll get that to you. We'll get some on it right now. I get that pre-approval letter or feedback on what is not clean. We work on it and get that through, but typically it's 24 to 48 hours.
Okay. And kind of finishing up here a little bit, I've heard a lot of reasons why I would want to call you to have you process my loan, but what would you like to tell our viewers? Why do you stand out, and what would you tell them to encourage them to give you a call? What are you going to do for them that may be a little bit different from the other lender? I know you've already covered it, but tell our viewers again, why should they call you?
Well, I'm your mortgage coach, you know?
Okay. And you're a coach.
I'm a mortgage coach.
That's what you said at the beginning.
The neat thing is that we're going to educate you. Like, obviously, we're going to get you into this home. I'm going to get you into this home. But the goal would be, let's learn how to use this asset, right? Most mortgage lenders are just like, let's get you this loan. Let's get you close so I can get paid, right? Yeah. For me, it's like, no, let's educate you because who knows? Like, in a year or two from now, when you've got some equity, can we maybe use that to buy a second rental property, right? Right. I love real estate. I love the nuances of the mortgage lending space. There's so much possibility, so much learning. I do what I do well so that my buyers can do what they do well. If you're a doctor, you should not be worrying about your loan. I'm going to get your loan closed no matter what, right? I'm going to find the best product, the best service. Like, that's what's most important, right? And then after that, making sure you always have the support. I'm going to give you a call. 30 days after to congratulate you, right? I'm going to give you a call at 6 months, and then that 1 year, congrats, right? And then 4 times every year, might get annoying, but I'm going to give you another phone call. I call 2 letters of the alphabet every Wednesday. So every one of my buyers, every Wednesday, for 4 times a year, based on the alphabet and how it works out, they're going to get a call from me. Hey, is there anything I can do today to support you? And then as a real estate partner, I'm always asking, hey, is there anybody, friends or family, that also need the same level of support that Greg and I gave you? Building business for my partner and I, right? My ally and I. And so it's just continued service. We're going to get the loan closed, and excellent communication and education.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little more personal about you. Where do you see yourself in, say, 5 years? Have you thought that far? Do you? What kind of goals, whether it's financial, physical, emotional, where do you see yourself in 5 years, or where do you want to be in 5 years?
In 5 years, I think where my family and I are going to be is like, I'm going to be in a business. So we'll talk business first. Where I'm going to be in my business is I'm going to have something that's sustainable, meaning I can step away from it, and I've got a team around me that can fully accomplish everything that I could do, right? They've got the same tone, the same level of energy, they've got the same drive, right? The mission behind what I do. And it could run in a way where everybody gets the same experience and even faster than what they're getting today, right? And then scalable. I would really like a business, right? Ideally, I tell my boss all the time, I want to be in the 1%. I don't think it's that hard to be in the 1% in mortgage lending, but I want to be in the 1% in 5 years, right? I want to be closing anywhere from 30 to 50 loans a month. And that's with a team of people, right? And it's totally possible once I know my data. And then it's just this many things have to happen this many times to get this much yield, right? And that's like for 30 to 50 people that I'm going to be able, and the 30 is the threshold for like a 1%. But ideally 30 to 50, where I can like help a lot more people find home, right? And build a business around my my mortgage coaching business to where I can really help people in some significant ways. Yeah.
So that's your business.
That's my business goal. I think a personal goal would be able to surf more. So
that's not going to happen in Fresno.
You know,
I know you live in the Kingsburg area, but that is not going to happen.
So I want to be able to take more trips with my family, and then to have an opportunity to where like I do loan consultations and help my partners build loan files and find solutions, but also be able to step away, knowing that those are being taken care of, to really spend more time with my family. Right now, it's like very much, you know, I'm up at 6 getting things going, and I close by around 5 p.m. every evening. And it's just, there's a lot of grind right now because of the scaling that I'm doing. But I want to be able to lay off a little bit, right? I want to be able to lay off a little bit. And in 5 years, I think I could do that.
Okay.
And then physically, maybe like a 220-pound bodybuilder, you know? No, I'm kidding. No, I actually want to be a triathlete. That's one of my things I'm training for right now.
Oh, wow.
Is we're doing a half Ironman in like next year, and then there's another one this December. So just like I want to be healthy and have goals physically.
God willing, do you want to grow your family?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of want a baker's dozen, but my wife doesn't. I can tell you that much. So right now we've got one. I think we both kind of come to the same page as we want 2 of our own, and then we'd like to adopt 2. So that's kind of the vision, is we want to, and I think sandwich in. So I've got little Marigold. Maybe in a year or so start the adoption process, and then have one of our own, and then down the road, our 4th kid, but second adopted kid.
Wow. It's funny you should say baker's dozen. My one of my daughter-in-laws comes from 13.
No way.
Yeah.
And in the Valley, there's a lot of big families. Like my family's the Jackson family, right? And so they take over the whole Valley. Yeah. Like, it's pretty crazy.
And we're living in Southern California. Last question. Now you're living in the Valley here. How do you like living in the Valley at this time?
Oh, it's the relationship. It's so funny. People
actually, what is the difference?
This is so funny, and you're going to get a kick out of this. Everybody asks me. So I'm right now wearing like no-show socks, right? This is normal for OC, Orange County, right? I walked in, I was invited from a client of mine to have beer down in Corcoran with a bunch of dairymen, right? I walk in looking like this. They're all in, Wranglers and boots, and they just look like, manly men, right? I walk in showing my ankles. They just lost it. What the heck are you doing? Like, you just look whatever, right? Yeah. Where are you from? And then they followed up with a question, because we were talking, and all they talk about was sports, like their work, and like shooting, or that kind of stuff, right?
Hunting, you mean?
Hunting and shooting, or like at the range of the guns they've got.
Yeah.
And then I didn't have much to talk about because I'm from the city, right?
Yeah.
They look over at me and say, what do city kids talk about? Literally. They had no idea. I'm like, well, to be honest, in the city, we have a lot more time for like hobbies. So like we talk about surfing and the next trip we're going to go on and whatever, because we don't have like 100 acres to take care of. We don't, whatever, right? Where the community that I'm in right now is a farming family, a farming community. So that's just everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's super fun. The relationships here are deep. Like in the city, you meet someone, they will just dump everything on you. Like, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm struggling with, I'm depressed, I'm whatever, my marriage is falling apart, and then you'll never hear from the person again. Oh. Different culture. Here, like, you ask someone how they're doing, I'm good. But after 6 months of intentionally meeting with that person, you know, crossing paths, you built a really deep friendship that's going nowhere, right? Like, it's depth, right? And so for me, as someone who loves to connect with people, it's just been a challenge in the beginning, but also a huge, beautiful blessing to know that the relationships I'm building now, right? And the commitment and the consistency of just showing up for my friends here, like, they're going to last forever. Yeah. Because these people are just like more like meaningful, they're more intentional, and they're not so fast, right? Yeah. And there's less traffic. That's kind of nice too.
Yeah, definitely.
That's kind of nice.
So if our viewers wanted to contact you, if they had any questions about you, the lending process and everything, how can they get a hold of you? I'm going to ask you to slow your talk down so they can get it.
Yes, I do talk fast because I'm excited and I love
know
what
you're full of you're full of
Yeah.
passion in life. Again, that's why I wanted to interview you. But how can we get a hold of Jacob Lewis Todd?
Jacob Lewis Todd, your mortgage coach.
Oh my gosh, 3 first names.
3 first names, I know. My grandfather's middle name is Lewis, my dad's middle name is Lewis, and mine is. So that got stuck with that, you know. I was almost Ronald Lewis III.
Wow.
It's not, okay, so random story. Okay. Yes, if you have any questions about mortgage financing, and like I said, it's a green light. You want to buy a home next month, right? Give me a call. If you are on the fence and you're like, I need a mortgage plan, right? I know there's a few things I need to dial in. Give me a call, right? If you're completely at a hard stop, I'm probably so far out, I'll never buy a home. Still give me a call, right? You can reach me at my cell phone, right? 949-899-9317. That's also my cell, so you can text it or call. Also, you can follow me on Facebook and on Instagram at Your Mortgage Coach. I post some helpful videos there.
That's easy to remember,
and,
Your Mortgage
you should
Coach.
be able to get that pretty easy. So I look forward to hearing from you and continuing to work with you, right, my friend?
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you very much, Jacob. I really
it's a pleasure.
appreciate it. I enjoyed myself. And hey, if you have any real estate needs that I can help you with, hey, you know how to get a hold of me, the Bearded Realtor. I'd love to hear from you. You guys have a great day, and we will see you next week.
Woo!
Bye.